All right, you glorious and miserable accursed. It's David Herle here with the Curse of Politics panel on Monday, April the 14th, the first day of our coverage of the fourth week of the Canadian federal election campaign. I am joined by,
Too many
as
numbers.
always,
First to the
What?
fourth, the third, first to the fourth. I married Isis on the 5th day of May. Like, I don't, you're confused. Is this numerology, astrology? What are you getting on about?
I'm just trying to kill some time, Scott, because you said you were going to be shitty today. So,
Well, I didn't say that, but I guess you probably smelled it on me. Yes.
all right. So we're here, but we are also joined for her second stint on our show from Politico, from the Ottawa Playbook, Mickey Jarich. How are you,
Fan
Mickey?
favorite.
I'm good. I'll try not to say a lot of numbers this morning.
Where are you at, Mickey?
I'm in Ottawa, but I'm planning on going to Quebec tomorrow, and I'll also be in Montreal for the debates later this week. So maybe I'll see you guys there.
All right.
All right.
So where are the leaders at today? Are they all in Montreal debate prepping, or are they still trotting around the country?
Some of them are. Mark Carney, he's in Dorval, Quebec. He's doing a morning press conference. That's all the details we really have from him today. I'm sure he's going to be practicing his French for the next few days. And then Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, he's doing a press conference in Montreal this morning. And then NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, he's actually in Toronto. He's appearing on a couple of networks, doing a couple of media interviews. And then he's going to be making a morning announcement as well, alongside Claire Haxel, NDP candidate in Toronto Danforth.
Hey, do you have any juicy insight into debate prep? Like who's doing what they're doing, how they're doing it? Do you have any gossip?
I don't yet, but I'll try to get some for tomorrow.
Yeah, try to find out who's in charge of debate prep for all the
I also want to know
candidates.
their like hype
Who's
songs.
playing who? Who's playing who?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yes,
Yeah.
I'll try. I mean, some campaigns will probably be a lot harder to get that information from, but I'll see what I
In the
can do.
Ontario campaign, I was asked to play Doug Ford for the Liberal campaign debate prep, and I declined. But
You'd have to
that would've
lose some
been
weight for the job.
I would have to get a little bit
Yeah,
more
he'd
fit.
have to be more affable, David. That's really the
right.
problem.
There's
guys know-
there's no likable, approachable factor about me.
I don't know if any of you guys know Mark Lawson, but he was playing Shriner during our debate prep in the last election, and I think he probably watched every minute of footage on YouTube. Like probably half the views of Mike Shriner on YouTube were Mark Lawson practicing. Never seen somebody do a better performance of a leader. Could have been on SNL or something like that. Good. It was
It's
good.
a skill, that's for sure.
Good to see
Yeah.
people taking their job serious.
Well, you can always tell who actually put the time in when you start debate prep and like who's actually got it nailed.
You got it. Sure can.
Mickey, when people go to Ottawa Playbook today, what are they going to find? What's the big story?
Well, I talked to a whole bunch of pollsters to see what they're looking for this week. So if people are curious what, pollsters are saying, check it out. There's also a little Q&A with Jason Easton. He's Trudeau's former senior trade advisor, and he talks to us about how Canada is eager to renegotiate USMCA and basically Canada's relationship with Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick.
Good old Jason. What a great guy. No? I
Oh.
think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jesus, you really cut him loose there, Mickey. I mean, man.
She said, I don't know.
It's early, David.
He
Christ.
didn't brown my toast, whatever.
All right, Mickey, we'll see you tomorrow. You can insult another one of my friends.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Yeah. The word artificial rarely shows up as a strong argument in matters of environmental sustainability. That's a rule you can pretty much count on. The exception to that rule unwinds here over the next 90 seconds, as I tell you about a new initiative from our presenting sponsor, Telus. It's their sovereign AI factory, launching this summer. Clearly, there's a broad set of benefits with this, but the factory has a particular focus on sustainability. I'll drill down on that after the basic details. In essence, this is Canada building its own high-tech infrastructure specifically for AI, cementing the tools and talent to advance our tech future, and massively benefit the economy. Think of it as the cornerstone for our own Silicon Valley. The first factory will open in Rimouski, Quebec, followed by a planned expansion to a second facility in BC. They'll be powered by NVIDIA's latest supercomputers and run on Telus' high-speed, low-latency fiber networks. Faster, better, smarter technology that not only supercharges our businesses and research projects, it also keeps all the data, innovation, and computing power right here in Canada, ensuring our technological sovereignty. But I promised you a sustainability story, folks, and here it is. These AI factories are specifically engineered for efficiency. Powered by 99% renewable energy and strategically designed for natural cooling, they cut water consumption by over 75% compared to most data centers. They're also 3 times more energy efficient for excess power usage, using significantly less electricity to power those intense AI computing workloads. And maybe the most exciting thing, there's all kinds of potential for putting the AI to work to make things even more eco-friendly, developing new solutions for our environmental challenges, and supporting Canadian businesses as they move forward with sustainable technologies in a very real, very practical way. There's nothing artificial about that.
All right, give us the juice, Dave. Just 2 weeks ago, we want to know the numbers.
You do, eh?
Yeah,
I mean,
because
he does.
It all changed on the weekend, didn't it?
You know, the Polaris polling is brought to you by Enbridge, a leading Canadian energy infrastructure company, reliably and affordably fueling your quality of life and powering our economy.
Yes,
You
I
knew
do
that?
know that.
Okay.
I do
If
know
you
that.
know that, then you get the numbers. All right.
I'll
According
give
to
it you, baby.
Pollara,
Yeah.
polling through Sunday, April 11th, 2,166 mix of live interviewer and online. Liberals 44. Conservatives 36. NDP 9. Bloc 5. Greens 3. PPC 2. 15% undecided. Regional splits mostly the same. Liberals are up 15 points in Ontario, 18 points in Quebec. Conservatives are up 4 points in BC.
You say 18 in Quebec?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
I did.
these numbers haven't really budged. Like, honestly, right? Like, that we
Yeah.
haven't really seen in the player numbers. We haven't actually seen much movement in these, even over the entire campaign, but certainly in the last week and a half or so, right?
There is some underlying movement, like the gender gap continues to grow, if that was even possible.
Wow.
So, the Conservatives are up 10 points over the Liberals among men under the age of 50. The Liberals are up 2 points among men over 50. The Liberals are up 17 points among women under 50 and 22 points among women over 50. And so, according to Pollara, compared to the same question in last fall, ending in December, Carney's up 17 points among men under the age of 50, 17 points among men over the age of 50, 31 points among women under the age of 50, and 22 points among men over the age of 50 compared to Trudeau's numbers last fall. And I had some interesting polling, by the way, this over the weekend.
I read about it. I read about it. I think it was either Politico or the Hill Times did a little blurb on it this morning.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Rubicon did a survey for the Saskatchewan Urban Municipalities Association of Saskatchewan, which is fantastic because there's never any polling about Saskatchewan. You always get the Manitoba, Saskatchewan monstrosity that doesn't tell you anything about either of those two provinces. But what we found in Saskatchewan is it's 46 Conservative, 31 Liberal, 13 NDP.
Wow.
And that Conservative number is down 13 points from their 2021 election total. They got 59% of the vote in 2021 in Saskatchewan, running at 46. What was most interesting was the two cities. So outside of Regina and Saskatoon, it's 49 Conservative, 23 Liberal, 15 NDP, and 5 PPC. In Regina, it's 42 Conservative, 37 Liberal, 11 New Democrat. And in Saskatoon, it's 43 Conservative, 38 Liberal, and 13 New Democrat. So there's probably, in addition to the northern riding, which is pretty much, I think, a given for the Liberals at this point, the Desnethy riding, it looks like there's probably 4 ridings that they would be in the hunt in Regina and Saskatoon.
Wouldn't that be an interesting outcome? Like if you look at the comments from Manning and others, Danielle Smith, about Western alienation. Like if you had these two narratives happening at the same time, one that effect, that people are disappointed in a Carney victory if that's how it turns out, but then also seeing the largest number of seats since 68 of Liberals elected on the prairies, that would be quite the shocking outcome if it were to transpire.
This election continues to be a complete perfect storm.
Looks like they're going to triple their vote from the last election. I mean, Jordan, obviously, that's just a horrendous NDP number for Saskatchewan. It's unbelievable. Terrible. But Kory, to your point, I did ask the good folks of Saskatchewan, which was more important to them as a ballot question, protecting Canada from Donald Trump or ensuring the Liberals don't form the next government. So is it change or is it Trump? And it's 54 Trump, 36 change.
In Saskatchewan. Woof.
Yeah. Well, I have my own poll. I went door knocking for our buddy Evan Solomon, who's running as the Liberal in Toronto Centre. Now, you might expect Toronto Centre to be a slightly positive riding for the Liberals, and you would be right. Me and the boys knocked on doors in 2 buildings, but I was, even by the standards, the subjective standards of door knocking, when
is this our designated former CBC journalist writing for the Liberals? Is this where we run former CBC?
There's always
it's a requirement, actually. They have it in the nomination requirements.
Right. It was Marcy's riding. So, used to do Canada with Marcy way back, and then Evan's riding. So, obviously did that with him. So, yeah, no, I was actually obligated contractually to knock doors in the riding. CTV does not like that joke. Not just kidding. No, send your letters to space. Don't send them to CTV, please. Yeah, but it was interesting. And sorry, Jordan, I was quite taken because it's a pretty good riding for the NDP, and they have a really strong candidate. And I was surprised. I had a handful of people say to me, I always vote NDP. This time I'm thinking about voting Liberal. And at least the people who volunteered that, their reason wasn't any dissatisfaction with Singh, to be honest. They said, because I want Carney.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I would say, it's not the
most
you're completely wrong. Wait, bullshit.
We didn't even win that one in 2011.
I'm going to call bullshit before Jordan even starts. Because here's another number from my Saskatchewan poll. Favorable or unfavorable? Carla Beck, leader of the provincial NDP.
Heard of her.
Unfavorable, total, 28.
Right.
Okay? Jagmeet Singh, unfavorable total, 47.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. Scott Moe has used Jagmeet Singh as a punching bag for the last several years.
Well, it's worked, whatever it is.
Sure.
However unfair it has worked.
I'm not saying it's unfair or not unfair, but I'm saying it's causal, right? It didn't drop out of space, And,
I'm just telling you, in a very controlled scientific experiment I ran door to door for 3 hours yesterday afternoon, Jagmeet Singh did not come up once, even from the NDP voters, which in its way is condemning.
Well, I would like to just take a moment to recognize...
Well, wait, he's either the problem or he's not.
Well, I think we should just pause and recognize the accomplishment of Evan Solomon, a reformed art dealer who's picked him up by himself up by his bootstraps and is now back and rehabilitating.
You can't keep a good man down.
That's right. Well, it's tough, the tough streets of Rosedale. You start by looking at art in a gallery, and the next thing you know, you're an art dealer slinging art on the corner.
I'm glad Kory made that joke, so I didn't have to.
Yes, well,
but somebody had to, Scott.
I understand. I just a little sympathetic, but I'll tell you, there's a lot of literature drops.
Why are you sympathetic? I've seen the art in your house. It comes from the Loblaws.
Hey, now that is not that's original art right there behind me, man. That's a Gene Colan. You got a couple Jeff Lemire. This is high price shit, brother.
You got a colon. Do you have a clipped?
Oh, boom. Oh, scatological humor. Let's lift everybody's public discourse. Yeah, there's a few literature drops from our friends at the NDP about art dealing going on in Cabbagetown.
I don't think that hurts you there, though, to be honest.
I love the spirit, though.
As the Trump administration continues disrupting the Canada-US trade relationship, it's reassuring to know CANDU reactors are Canadian designed, and they're helping to ensure our energy security. CANDU reactors have been powering the Canadian economy for more than 60 years. Current CANDUs have been updated and modernized to meet today's standards, but there's a need to build new reactors in Ontario to buttress our existing high-functioning fleet and help secure our energy independence with clean baseload power. These reactors also provide critical access to life-saving medical isotopes used in hospitals across Canada and around the world. Unlike other large reactor technologies that rely on foreign sources of enriched uranium, CANDU reactors use natural uranium mined and prepared in Canada. President Trump can't mess with our fuel. Equally important, the construction of the next generation of large reactors in Ontario help ensure our skilled manufacturing base of high-paying union jobs, threatened by Trump's tariffs, will be in demand as we build a fleet of reactors in the decades to come. These large CANDU reactors will provide Ontario with much-needed additional power. At the same time, investments in small modular reactors will be necessary too, particularly in remote locations for resource development. CANDU technology, designed by Canadians, built by Canadians, for the benefit of Canadians. Let's get moving. So, let's start by talking about Carney. That's the response it provokes.
Bring it up. It could be a bus ticket.
I know,
We'll all leave.
Jesus Christ. Anyway, pretty quiet campaign over the weekend on the heels of a pretty bizarre Friday. No?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't really get the Friday thing, and I don't really get what's happened after. I mean, you and I were talking about this on the pod, and Scott, and we were saying he's got to do something if he goes back, and his prime minister got to be an announceable. There's got to be a piece of action. There's got to be something. And why didn't he even take questions? Just, I mean, it's sort of like the campaign feels to have, in earned media terms, kind of dissipated over the last 4 days or so.
Well, obviously they didn't agree with our analysis because there was no action, and I don't think it's the end of the world by any stretch of the imagination. It didn't seem like the end of the world. People mention it, but I don't know that it matters. I think it makes it a little harder the next time he decides, if he has to decide in the next 2 weeks to come off the campaign trail. I think the price of admission for saying we're going to pause the campaign in order to do the business of government, I think that price maybe goes up a pinch
Right.
because now people are a little bit more alert and their antennas are a little bit more peaked to it. I thought there was a good decision, a bad decision in that day. So I thought the bad decision was to not have an action. It seemed to me that if you're going to do it, you should come forward and say, look, we are anxious about pharmaceutical tariffs, which the Globe and Mail is headlining today, right? Or we can't get clarity out of these fucking clowns. So we're sending a couple of ministers to meet with Leichnitz, or we're asking Leichnitz to meet with us, or we're doing something. We send a smoke signal, anything. But no action, I thought, was an odd decision. Again, I don't think it's the end of the world, but it's not what I would have done. Then I thought it was actually a good decision, to your point, to only have him pause, because if he was going to go out there empty-handed, I would not have wanted him as a liberal, right? Just talking about from pure tactics. I would not have wanted him to do a newser, because he would have spent the newser being asked, why are you doing this? It would have elevated that issue. And he would have been asked about the Cayman Island stuff and all that. And he's routinely shown himself to be thin-skinned on that. So yeah, like, get the quick visual of him talking like a prime minister and then get out of Dodge. So, but I think they would have had a better day if they had an action. It felt to me like it was an underutilized
He was
day.
saying some interesting things, Scott. He was saying that we're seeing signs that the economy globally is slowing down now.
Yeah.
As a reaction to the American tariffs. Jordan, that would have felt like something to build on a little bit. It made me interested to hear more. What's going
Yeah,
on?
I mean, like that's an opener, right? But that's not kind of an action flowing all the way through. So I mean, yeah, I would agree with Scott's analysis. I mean, to me, I think it landed weakly, and then the following day he was also down and really just had that phone call with the NATO Secretary General to show for it. His campaign put out an announcement, but again, he was down, no media questions. I mean, look, it's just past the midpoint of the campaign. Maybe he needed a bit of a break, but I would think that if they're going to do that, you have to come out with something that's a little more robust in terms of the cover that you're providing for it. And I agree that if they try this again next week, I don't think it's going to go quite as well for them.
Right. Kory?
Yeah, I think there's some obvious things they could have done if they wanted more of a rationale, like meet with cabinet, have a series of briefings. Like, there's you could put out a better rationale, I think, without a whole lot of difficulty. And what constitutes a good enough reason? Well, it's kind of in the eye of the beholder, but you do want to provide some level of answer to that makes some sense. Uh, that said, like if I were them, given that he's just come off the heels of a leadership campaign and has been basically on the road for 75, 80 days, whatever the number is, I would be resting him as much as possible.
Yeah.
Like because
I think
the
that's what it
biggest
was about.
the biggest risk that they have, I think, is a poor debate performance this week. And he had the Tout le monde en parle and all of that. Like those things are taxing. And you really have to be fresh when you're in debate prep. You've got to, you got to be focused. And to do that, you got to be well rested. So like um, they could have done better in terms of giving a reason, but I suspect the real reason is more about that than anything to do with what's going on in the United States.
Yeah. Hey, you mentioned Tout le
Can I
monde en
just agree
parle,
with
so I
that
was going to say
emphatically?
to our listeners, two big events in Quebec. If the numbers don't move in later in this week in Quebec, they're not going to move. Um, because Tout le monde en parle, both Polyev and Carney were on last night. A million Quebecers watched that show. They got a real glimpse into those two people, and then the French debate is this week. So, anyway, Scott, I cut you off. Go ahead.
Well, no, I just wanted to really, really agree with Kory because I think it's important. Like we have seen from Carney, and he might not like to hear this, but we have seen that he does not have the same sort of physical campaign stamina that Trudeau does. And Trudeau was a unique beast, but we became used to it. He was a guy who would do 5 events a day, and he would do that 50 days in a row. And I think with Carney, we've seen evidence, particularly when he has to slide into French and be so concentrated, and it's a challenge that when he's fatigued, his performance tapers. And so I think the value of resting him is important. I also would like he was getting tough questions. That Cayman Islands thing, I think they put tactically a little bit of good stagecraft on the part of good management on the part of the campaign. They largely managed to put a little bit of a lid on that pot. Now it'll come up in the debates, but it was running a bit on Friday. And I think if he'd been exposed to questions all weekend, it might have been a bigger part of the public discussion by now. But you got to rest him.
I've never heard you give that advice to a candidate before.
No?
No, have you?
Sure. Let an issue cool for certain.
No, that advice, yes, but a candidate actually just resting, not working.
That's not. Yeah, it's 100% against my Presbyterian work ethic. So I find it's anathema. But I have noticed on the but I think I think they do need to make certain he has time to work. And then like it's not resting, right? It's not like he's sitting around smoking cigarettes and watching like Fred Astaire flicks. He's actually he was working in a French environment without ceasing all weekend long, so that he was prepared for Tout le monde en parle last night.
Right.
But by all accounts, he seemed to do fine, right? Like, not great, but like acceptable, as Chantel says.
Watching clips from Polyev over the weekend, they certainly have changed their stagecraft. There's no doubt about that. The podium and the backdrop are really different from what it looked like before.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the maple leaf instead of the slogan is a notable choice in and of itself.
Yep.
But I don't know that that's going to be enough to get people to change their impressions of this.
Yeah, it helps you date stamp their pivot, but
Yeah.
other than that, I think The problem is that it's the leader, right? Like it's how he is carrying off the message. It's the fact that they still look like they're waging a war on the mainstream media. It's the fact that, he's still in various moments running the greatest hits at the rallies. It's the fact that he's still sounding more aggressive, attacking Carney than he is on Trump. All those things are still in play. Some days more than others, I will say. Like, you can see that there is an effort to redirect the messaging, but it really does appear to be he himself that's pulling back to some of those elements that I think he frankly finds like more animating. Like Polyev lives for this stuff. And it's difficult for him to leave those things behind, I think.
Scott, I had come to conclude he didn't have another gear. But I took the time and watched this long form interview that he and his wife did with some show. I don't know what it was, the show, but it was circulating over the weekend.
That
I don't know
pod,
if
yeah,
you,
with them.
don't know if you saw it. And there
Well,
was
on your recommendation, I went and peeked at it, and I had the same reaction. And I was seeing
for
people
about
talk
5
about
or
it
10
online.
minutes when he was talking about his child. I liked him.
He softened measurably,
Mhm.
demonstrably, visibly.
I have never had that feeling about him before. Honest to God, never had an emotional, wow, I'm connecting with this person, feeling with him before, but I did when he was talking about his child in that video. So somewhere in him, that is actually there.
Such a strange observation. It's
Yeah, but
like you're
like
saying, my
is
God, there's
two
a
weeks
human.
enough, for Canadians to know that guy when the other guy's been out front for 2 years?
Right.
But the question is, did they do that podcast and boost it in order to to show that? And does that mean that the campaign recognizes the need to showcase that? Or is that just something that happened and we saw a glimpse of, but it will bear no resemblance to what he does on the stump or in the debates for the rest of the campaign? I mean, that's going to be the big question is that a preview of what's to come? Will he try to show more of that? I think I know probably too early to get a debate, prep and projection, but it's going to be interesting to see what their macro strategy is for the debates, what kind of Polyev they want to present.
Well, at a minimum, just to refer back to my silly question, at a minimum, they have to present a face that's more acceptable to women. I mean, they cannot lose women this badly and win the election.
Well,
So the guy that
and
shows up has to
progressives.
be more likable, right?
And progressives, because like what's happening to the poor beleaguered NDP is he's scaring the shit out of those voters so much that they are willing to walk away from decades of voter preference in order to try to stop him. So like I think it's two different groups of people, two problems. Some of them are probably the same people, to be frank, female NDP voters, but with those two cohorts, he's got to get less scary. And I don't know, tweaking your script at the rally or the podium sign at the rally when what is just, I think, insufficient. If what you say is true about this interview, I haven't seen it. I'll take a look after we're done this morning. Like do an event at a daycare, do an event with children with
do a fireside chat
disability or
instead of
something.
Yeah.
rally.
Like you would change the forum to try to tease that out of them. Like
Yeah.
the fireside chat on stage. There's all kinds of things that you could do from communications technique to try to amplify that. But part of me still thinks there's an element of just chasing the dopamine high of getting in front of those big rally crowds and getting your tires pumped by the crowd.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say, like, I watched part of the interview as well, and I also found him to be more thoughtful and appealing in it than in a lot of the coverage that we've seen. But then I thought two things: who's going to see this interview,
Right.
in terms of where they're circulating it and the person they chose to do it? And I don't think it's going to be the women that we're talking about here, and. And this is like the limits of their strategy in terms of like, frankly, waging war on the mainstream media. They now have really burned that bridge in terms of using that same media as a vehicle to carry that shift in message to those female voters, to those New Democrat voters who are frightened by the size of the rallies, who are scared by his tone and momentum. They actually can't communicate that outwards because they're busy penning the journalists in and not answering their questions. So, I mean, there's something karmic to it because if you like make a pivot in the woods and no one hears it, like did it fucking happen?
Well,
Pivot in the Woods. I
but it-
remember that movie. I think that was a
but
horror flick.
Yeah.
if they could lower that
Then what do you mean?
animosity, see, I have a feeling, and people I've been talking to who've knocked on doors have been reinforcing this for me, that there's a grudgingness to the liberal vote. There's a fuck. I would have liked to have taken a pound of flesh out of you for the last 10 years. There's a ideally I wouldn't have to reward you thing, and so there's something to work with there still. I think that people still do want to vote for a change. That's not that change. They've got to figure that out.
Yeah, a little bit of luck is probably required. Like Trump has continued to just loom large in this campaign in ways that you got to pity the conservatives and and the NDP and the bloc, frankly, for the on again, off again tariff stories last week, and it's a 100% tariff on China. No, it's 145. No, it's not on computers and electronics. And then you have Leichnitz out yesterday saying, but yes, it is. You just have to wait another month. It's like,
like they are trying to kill the bond market, and the bond market will kill them. Like it's insane what they're doing. But
I don't understand this other than as a massive grifting operation now.
I think it's the only thing that makes sense.
The grifting and maybe the president just every time he gets asked a question shakes the magic 8 ball and sees what the answer is, because like it feels like it's almost that unintentional and random.
Outlook hazy. Perfect.
Yeah. Great. Yeah.
That's just what I want.
Yeah, I'll tell you people enough time to short their stocks. Be great.
But boy, oh boy. Like to your point about some people being unlucky, some parties being unlucky, and this ball bouncing the wrong way. Imagine if on the eve of this French debate, if Trump comes out with an announcement on tariffs on pharmaceuticals, given how in the zeitgeist conversation, cultural, political, business conversation in Quebec, the brand name pharmaceutical industry, if they're smacked with tariffs in and around this debate, like if you're Polyev, you're just like, fucking come on, man. Like, come on. You're just pounding me like a roofing nail here.
Well, if you're Polyev, you say, hey, come on, knock it off.
Knock it off. Shut up. Get out of the yard, kids. All right.
One more time, and I'm turning this car around.
Wipe your boots before you come in. Are we going to talk about the liberal rat fucking?
Yeah, we have to talk about the fucking buttons.
I think we should, because I don't want to look like we're avoiding it. And so
well, then go ahead, say your piece.
Well, I think it's bad. I think that Jenny is our friend, and this fucking button that says no Jenny, yes Kory, and all this stuff, picking up on the conversations we've had and that Kory's appearances on media and stuff, and then circulating that button. It got a lot of play, man. And it got a lot of play. So if that button was a totally manufactured rat fuck operation.
That's why they were so proud of it, that they were bragging about it at Darcy McGee's.
Yeah, well, that's like, listen, as someone who has flapped his gums and lived to regret it, and sometimes not lived to regret it, let me tell you, beer and secrets do not mix. But I think, the campaign should have been at least as hard as it was on it, maybe arguably much harder and louder and more public. I think there should have been a couple body. I've heard that some people lost their jobs. I don't know if that's true, but the fact that we don't know is, I think I might have strung them up. And
aren't they going to be 24 years old?
That's the problem, right? Is that you're going to you don't really want to, like, it is a rat fuck thing. This is not like, Indian or Chinese foreign interference, despite the conservative, hyperbolics. But it does piss me off. It pisses me off because now those clowns who are responsible, those stupid, mistaken kids, have given the conservatives, forget the rest of this campaign, they've given the conservatives 10 years of license to bitch and moan and claim false flag operations. And I don't like the dynamic around Kory and Jenny and all that sort of stuff. It's just a little too close to the bone for us here.
Yeah.
Anyway, but conservatives, don't pretend that this is actually the breakthrough TSN turning point. It's not. And I see that all over social media, like conservatives telling themselves that, like, this is it, and this is like this is going to like rally people in the 905. It ain't.
Well, I've never really seen these things work positively. Like, even when people do get away with this kind of bullshit,
how you win an election.
It's a distraction. from what you need to be doing. And like, rest his soul, Doug Finley was famous for doing this kind of bullshit. And you saw get the Conservatives in a lot more trouble than you ever saw it help. And I just don't get it. Like, elections are a lot of work for a lot of people, and dumb shit like this can really put all of those efforts at risk. And for what? For like a sort of sophomore, prank? I don't know. I don't like it at all.
Jordan,
So
you've had a quite a great look of anxious anticipation and moral superiority through this conversation. So let's have it.
yeah, well, I'm gonna surprise you. I mean, I'm not gonna pearl clutch about this. I like a good war room, piece as much as the next person, but there's a couple problems with this one. Like the it needs to help your campaign, okay, not hurt it.
Yeah.
And I think that, I'm sure you guys have had this experience as well. Like the war room and particularly the folks on the Oppo team, it's like an SNL pitch room, okay? So there's a lot of ideas. 80% of them are not good ideas. And it's the job of folks a little bit more senior in the campaign to sift through that incredible enthusiasm of the 20-year-olds and identify the ones that are worth doing and the ones that are hilarious but should stay on the shelf. So this is one that probably all things being equal should have stayed on the shelf. And I think that there's a couple of reasons for that. So the first is there's a line between the sort of like the pranky element or the drawing attention to something, the pointing out hypocrisy, and then like actively interfering in something. And this was over that line. So that's one thing that would should have been like I think a red flag to the folks in the war room when they were talking about doing this kind of an operation. And then the second thing is, if you're going to carry off something like this, you do not go to Darcy McGee's and talk about it with a journalist. And by the way, I think everybody, a little shout out to Front Burner. So Kate McKenna was the CBC reporter who was at Darcy's. And this story, it gets even better because she identified herself as a journalist and the staffer still said it in front of her. So,
Right.
like, this is moronic. And if
But
you're going,
that's the effect of beer. I
right. So,
Where'd you say you were from?
if you're gonna have a locker room, that's great. And I understand, and the campaigns have that energy, but like you have to have some discipline around this. It doesn't work if you blab about it all over town. And so I think at the end of the day, it's a loss because it casts doubt and it interferes in a moment where you have the cardinal rule of politics at work. If your opponents are in the middle of tying themselves up and having a problem, do not fucking get in their way. And they got in their way here. So I think it's something also that the campaign's response was very weak on. This would be an appropriate time to say that those folks are not coming back to the campaign and to take some accountability for it. And that is not what they
Well,
elected
which
to
the
do.
24-year-old kids in the bar or whoever's in charge of the war room who approved the operation?
I mean, typically it would be the 24-year-old kids in the bar that would take the hit for this one.
Yeah.
And I have to say, this is also part of learning, right? This is part of learning. And yes,
You
it's
can
true.
think when you're a young staffer, as I did,
Hmm,
that these journalists are your drinking buddies
sure.
and that they're your friends. Some
Yeah.
of them it's very friendly. And you can think before you've been burned once that you can actually say things to them that they won't print, but you can't.
No.
Hmm.
And look, and I think that, to be clear, yes, there was someone who approved that, who spiritually, yes, should take responsibility. But also like those staffers went out and bragged about it in public. Like that in and of itself says judgment problem.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things going on here. And then
I'm a little
lastly, I'll just
sympathetic on
say
that one.
the advantage, yeah, I'm sympathetic too, for sure. But like everybody makes an error, but that's also part of learning is that there's accountability for those errors. And
Mhm.
then the final thing is that the Liberal campaign, I know it's exciting, but like there cannot be a moment where they forget that the offer that they are making is stability, is calm, is boring, is lack of drama. And if you are doing things that suggests that you are moving off of that, it is a distraction to your campaign. So you got to be like doubly careful with these things in this particular environment.
Excellent. Anybody got anything else? No?
Hard to say it better than that.
Right. Reid, you're good?
I think Jordan nailed it.
All right.
I'm not good, but I agree with Jordan.
All right. Let's have blessings and curses.
My curse goes out. I'm going to stick with this. My curse goes out to this stunt, and I don't want to be punitive on the kids that did it, because people make stupid mistakes and they get all wound up when they're 24 years old. And I'm not even going to come down exactly on the war room, because I don't know exactly who did and who didn't know about this. I assume somebody did, but just as a general thing, in broad terms, I really, really, really hate the idea that these guys have given license to all these false flag claims that will now haunt us for literally like years. Because it will be pointed to as evidence that any crackpot bullshit assertion could be true. Because don't you remember those buttons? Don't you remember? You don't put anything past these liberals. So I hate that aspect of it, and it gets my curse.
All right. There you go. Jordan?
Yes, and actually I would second that. We didn't even talk about that, but the idea that this sort of feeds that disinformation thing, that's also empirically just really bad. So I'm going to send a blessing out to Jagmeet Singh, who gets a lot of flack on this podcast, but I was at the Broadbent Summit on
blessing. This
Not
like
for
better be a
me.
literal
Not for
blessing.
me.
Like holy water.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, I mean,
the
obviously
power of
we're
Christ
all
compels you.
powerful, David. So God knows. Maybe we'll move the needle. But I was at the Broadbent Summit, and he came on Friday and delivered some remarks. And this was the first time I'd seen him give a larger speech during the campaign. And I have to say, like, he was really good. He was very dialed in. He had the room. Like, it was a real contrast, of course, to what was happening at Manning the same day. There was a ton of enthusiasm there, and my blessing is really just this. This campaign is a grind. This is an incredibly difficult situation, and I think that what he brought to that was there was focus, there was energy, there was discipline in the Q&A. It's all the things that he needs to be bringing to the next 2 weeks. He cannot get too in his head, and he has to really execute the pivot that the campaign is doing to move into their end game message and commit to it wholeheartedly. And that is what I saw on Friday. And so a blessing out to him, because that is not an easy thing to do. And he's found himself in a very difficult circumstance this campaign. And so it was good to see him rising to that moment.
Great. Cool. Kory?
I'm going to throw a blessing to all the folks doing debate prep this week. It is not fun. You're trapped in some windowless, sweaty room, and going over the same material again and again, and trying to get the tone right and trying to get the body language right. It is misery, and
Trying to get the confidence right.
Yeah, it is a miserable experience, and so a blessing to all the people who are unfortunate enough to have to be locked in those rooms over the next few days.
I could not disagree with you more violently. There is no room I love more than the debate
Yeah, I
prep
actually
room.
really
There's
love
no,
debate prep.
Really?
I love it. Yeah, I love it. I love
Oh.
sitting there and rewriting the debate card for the 37th time and imagining, no. If they say
You know what?
apple,
You can go for me
then
next time.
you wait a half a beat and you say Eve, and then you fucking got him, right? It's
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. Scott arguing with the candidate about exactly what word they used. Right. They didn't get his line. They didn't get his line 100%. They only got his line 90%.
It's music, man. Bernie Taupin asked Elton to sing what he wrote. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that's true. And he dropped the last verse of Daniel because it didn't make any sense.
Wow.
So,
mistake.
There you go. My blessing this week goes out to the Saskatchewan Urban Municipalities Association. I'm so thrilled they sponsored a poll of Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan voters normally go through the whole election and never have any of the information that voters in other provinces have access to, which is how are my neighbors voting? What are they thinking? What are the issues that matter? And so SUMA stepped up and put some resources toward this and sponsored it. and I was thrilled to be part of it. So thank you, Suma, and it was a great public service. I want to thank our presenting sponsor, Telus, as well as Can-Do and Enbridge today for their support. Hey, the three of you, what can I say? Back. So good to see you. Kory, you look relaxed, I have to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I had a relaxing weekend. I had a nice dinner with Nicole's parents, a little early celebration of her dad's birthday. It was really nice.
Awesome.
Still
Well,
the Chateau Laurier, like one of those like fancy old European families. You go on a long vacation.
I'm still in the turret. You know,
Taking up residence
Still
at
the
the
top.
manor, guys. He's
up
holding
here,
firm.
up here, defending myself from the incels who want to light me up. Anyway,
You pour hot water out the turret.
All right,
Yes,
you
it
and
does
Chris,
that.
before we degenerate into another show entirely, thanks for your support. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Take care of yourselves.